making a difference. That is what governance assessment is all about.
First and foremost, UNDP leads on the whole area of democratic governance from a human development perspective. So there's a normative framework that informs our work.
Governance matters. That development is not just about, progress and productivity and people's jobs, but also in whether people have a say in decisions that affect them. So how do you get at that?
Governance is not a package that is imported from elsewhere and brought to particular communities. And if we go back to the real definition of accountability, accountability is when the community themselves will set the standards of what accountability should be, and they will be the ones in a position to make the evaluation of whether their officials are confirming or living up to those standards or not. You can still do external evaluations, but only as a complement to the main thing, which is communities doing their own evaluations and based on their own standards.
Governance assessments generate knowledge on the state of governance in a country or community. The UNDP advocates for country-led assessments that help citizens, women and the poor and marginalised to get better access to services like education, health and sustainable environment. It's about making governance responsive and accountable. There has been significant growth in the production and use of governance indicators. While this provides a rich source of information, comparative and external assessments do not necessarily help national actors address specific governance challenges.
We have studied a lot of other indices and also measurement of democracy throughout the world. The World Bank Governance Index and also Freedom House Index and all of other things. And then we decided if we want to develop Indigenous Indonesian Democracy Index, which is suitable with the need of Indonesia, we really have to develop through multi-stakeholders arrangement.
One needs a more rounded picture of complex phenomena. You can't simplify them and reduce them to a number. So what we've been doing is that once you get a number, you see people compare countries on that number. And they'd say, oh, X country is more democratic than Y country because it has this number. And we are not in favor of this kind of cross-country comparisons. We want to know whether measures and steps that are taken within a country are making a difference to people within that country.
Very often countries are made to fit an assessment tool rather than the other way around. The index, the tools, the method really need to fit and work for the national priorities, for the national context and for its stakeholders. So I think that is a challenge people in the field recognize, and that's something that we've heard from them, and that's why we're trying to make these assessment approaches what we call country-led assessments.
To truly address a country's needs, assessments themselves should be democratic. Including all relevant sectors of society in the decision of what should be measured and how strengthens the quality of the entire process.
So we form an advisory board which consists of civil society, academics and also government officials, and they are supervising the development of the index.
It's not just talking to, say, foreign investors and business community, but also finding out from the teachers and the politicians and the farmers and the ordinary public in terms of what they feel and what they experience when it comes to some of these governance indicators.
Citizens have to take their own right and their own destiny in their own hands and try to change things.
Assessments produce more than just data. A country-led approach can help to strengthen cultures and institutions to support both the supply and demand for data on governance, opening the door to long-term improvements in governance.
The demand side, in a way, is how do you make use of this information? You can do assessments and indicators for all you want, but if no one bothers about them, nobody uses them, if no politicians and people in government, if they don't take notice of them, then they are not going to change their behavior. The whole point about this is to change behavior for the better, and that means we need to get people to make use of this information.
National ownership also allows country to tailor assessments to focus on specific priorities, providing a mechanism for social accountability that can be implemented across policy areas.
A good example is in South Africa, where At the moment, we see an increase in corruption, and where political parties start to realize that since citizens become more aware, become active citizens, demanding good governments, they have to change the rules of the game.
So when we do the governance assessments, that lets us know what are the requirements, especially in the post-conflict situation or even like in Afghanistan, where we have to build up systems.
RED is going to be predicated on the local level. It will not work if there's no engagement of civil society. It's really about a partnership between state, civil society, maybe the private sector, as identified within a country on what is going to be necessary now to make sure that the RED mechanism, when it is agreed upon between developing and developed countries, is going to work.
Nationally owned and inclusive assessments provide societies with a powerful mechanism to translate knowledge into political action and social accountability.
So once the index was developed, then we trialed it in several, we have 33 provinces, but we try it in 10 provinces. And then based on those trial, which is we publish and we discuss with other wider stakeholders, then now we implement it in 33 provinces. Now provinces competing among themselves to show that they have progress in consolidation of democracy.
Now, but if you put this information in the public domain and people actually see it graphically, that, you know, in the same district, which ought to be treated equally, one part of it is getting all the goodies and the other is not, then the other lot are certainly going to stand up and ask some questions, for sure, because they don't now, because they don't know. So the moment you know, knowledge is power.
Growing recognition that countries hold the key to their own assessment and reform processes provides UNDP with a solid foundation for supporting and promoting a country-led approach to governance assessments.
This is now a process with a 15-year precedent, arising out of the MDG imperative, well-precedented, international learnings of how to do it well at the country level with country ownership and internationally assisted capacity building.
And for example, the work that was done in Indonesia allows us to bring stakeholders from Indonesia to Africa to share experiences.
And as a lever for democratization, evidence-based material for improving governance is a hugely important investment.
Government assessment has to be repoliticized, and we talk about issues of power. Let the communities set the standards, let them do the evaluation.
Once they have that data from people, they can confront the authorities and say, look, this is in the assessment of the people you're meant to serve, your performance is abysmal, right? And that does make a difference.
Making governance work for the people. Making a difference.